Hello. At a very early age, I already knew what I wanted for my life. I always said that I would become an Olympic boxer and later a professional boxer. So I started working towards my dream. I knew that in my life I was going to have to face obstacles and doubts, but none of that distracted me or it didn't discourage me. I remember one time my third grade teacher, she gave us this assignment where we were supposed to present in front of the class what we wanted to be when we grow up. And in that paper, I remember stating that I would become an Olympian. I don't even think I said I wanted to go. I remember saying I would go. Well, that teacher, she didn't like that, and she handed me back my paper, and she told me to sit down, and I wasn't allowed to present my project in front of the class. But I didn't let that affect me because I was already working towards my goal. And growing up, I've idolized fighters such as Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard. And a lot of these fighters came from poverty, broken homes, pretty much the ghetto. But watching these fighters overcome obstacles inside and outside of the ring, and yet still achieving their success, it just gave me more of a hunger and more of a motivation to want to attain my own success. But how did I get into boxing? Well, I got into boxing at a very early age because I was getting suspended a lot from school. I was always fighting. I was fighting with my cousins, and I would fight with my brother. So my dad took me to the gym the first day as punishment, not knowing that this punishment would later become a blessing in disguise. Growing up, it was very, very difficult for my dad because my dad had a hard time. My dad was a single father most of my childhood, and it was very, very difficult for us to, make money to go to tournaments. I remember my dad would always do everything he could. He always did car washes, barbecues. We sold chocolates. And many times, we even put my sister to sell chocolates outside of the post office, and people would kick him out. And I still remember one time, actually, when I was a kid and I was getting ready for a tournament, my grandpa sold a watch that he really, really loved. And he sold it so that I can have enough money to go to a boxing tournament. And I always told myself that I would later pay him back. About 1 month from my return from the Olympics, I received the box in the mail, and then I seen that it was an Olympic watch. And all I could do was just give it to my grandpa and just thank him for all of his sacrifices. My grandpa's right here. My grandpa's sitting right here, by the way. But thank you. My pastor's also here, and my pastor always tells me, he's always reminding me that there are no shortcuts in life. He's always telling me, you either want it or you don't. Because it is true that in life you do pay a big price to educate yourself, but I believe you will pay a bigger price later on in life if you don't, and you will regret it. In December of 2014, I entered a tournament in Tennessee where I competed 5 days in a row against the best fighters in the nation. And in that tournament, I dominated so clear that I was awarded the most outstanding boxer of the tournament. I then went on to compete internationally, where I was facing the best fighters in the world every other week. And in that competition, you're able to take 7 fights, but my team only decided to take 5 fights. And you needed 4 fights to qualify for a very big tournament at the time, which was called the Pan American Games in Toronto. So I won my first 3 fights against Italy, Argentina, and Poland. And I went to my 4th fight, the one that was supposed to qualify me. We flew all the way to Azerbaijan, which is by Bulgaria somewhere, where I fought the #1 ranked fighter in the world at the time, whose name was Albert Selimov. And during the fight, I received a headbutt that caused a cut in my forehead so bad, it required me to stop the fight immediately, and I was forced to get 6 internal stitches and 9 external stitches. So after the headbutt, when you're a fighter, they stop the fight and you lose. Well, I still remember coming home from that flight, getting home to Santa Maria. The flight was long and restless. I was tired, and my eyes were swelling shut from the fight and from the flight. So I was super discouraged. And I still remember quitting. I was so close to quitting at that point because I had fallen into a very, very deep depression because I knew I was able to qualify for the Pan American Games. But the fight was nearly impossible because the fight was about 10 days away, and I just had gotten about 14 stitches in my forehead. So I either had to find myself a doctor who was willing to remove the stitches or lose my spot at the Pan Ams. So I got myself together, and my family motivated me, and they talked to me, and they told me how was I going to go through so much in life when I'm at the doors of my opportunity that I'm going to quit. So I got myself together, and 1 week later, we flew to Miami, where I fought the number 2 ranked fighter from Puerto Rico, because the number 1 ranked fighter had pulled out because he also suffered a cut from a headbutt. But this fight, I won by knockout in the second round, and this fight not only qualified me for the Pan American Games, but it also qualified me early for the Olympic Games. And there's a famous quote by Michael Jordan that goes, "In my life, I failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeeded." Going back to my childhood, if I would have let any of those circumstances, if I would have let my teacher stop me, if I would have let any obstacle get in my way, I would have never been in the position that I am here today. So that's why my message to you guys is that in life, there will be problems, and there will be obstacles, and there will be doubts, but there will be you to prove them wrong. Thank you. God bless you all.